One that says, me watching her scream after I poured boiling water on her after she told a boy happy birthday because why you happy, he made it another year. Just weird stuff. That's super weird to repost, especially under this context.
Okay, so David's home was raided. They found bags of evidence and they also seized his computer. Now, I'm just waiting for when he's gonna get arrested.
Tesla trunk on September 8th, 2025, the Tesla truck was popped open up by the investigators, and what they found was horrifying. A 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Things went from strange to horrifying in a heartbeat. At first, detectives thought they were dealing with just another disturbing crime in Los Angeles, one of those tragic cases that shake the city but still fit into its long history of darkness. But the moment they began connecting the dots, when they tapped into the digital footprint of one of the fastest rising young artists in America, things unraveled in a way that no one saw coming. What they uncovered was chilling, almost cinematic in its construction, but unlike a movie, there was nothing scripted about the real pain and horror behind it. This wasn't simply another headline about a troubled musician caught in chaos. This was something far darker. The name at the center of it was David Anthony Burke, known to the world as D4vd's, the 20-year-old indie sensation who had been blowing up everywhere. His songs like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me had turned him into a global name, a voice for Gen Z, heartbreak and loneliness, the kind of artist who resonated with millions because he seemed vulnerable, raw, and real. People thought he was just another sensitive creator pouring his pain into his music. But what detectives uncovered showed that while people were vibing with his sad boy aesthetic, he had been quietly dropping breadcrumbs online that, when pieced together, looked less like artistic expression and more like an extended confession hiding in plain sight. His TikTok feed, the same place where he connected with fans through moody clips and viral snippets, became the most disturbing piece of evidence investigators had. It wasn't simply music content, it was a map, a psychological diary dressed up as memes, clips, and edgy jokes. Looking back, you almost can't believe how obvious it was. There were posts where he chopped raw chicken with the caption, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." At the time, fans laughed it off as jealous humor, the kind of toxic internet joke that thousands of young people post every day. But in light of what happened to Celeste, it didn't feel like a joke anymore. It felt like a preview, a clue no one took seriously until it was too late. Another clip surfaced of the infamous American Psycho nail gun scene, with D4d captioning it, "Me after hearing about her past with other boys." Alone is dark humor, but stacked alongside his other posts, it starts to reveal a pattern. His jealousy wasn't just a normal, youthful insecurity, it was festering, turning into an obsession. The tone of his captions gave everything away. "I'm jealous and utterly disgusted by her actions." That wasn't metaphor, that wasn't art, that was David letting the world peek into his real feelings while hiding behind the safe wall of internet content. And the most disturbing detail of all was his choice of imagery. His TikTok profile picture was a blindfolded Hello Kitty dripping in red. A lot of fans dismissed it as an edgy aesthetic, but Celeste, the young girl found in that Tesla, was obsessed with Hello Kitty. Friends remembered her wearing Hello Kitty sandals, carrying a matching keychain, decorating her notebooks with the iconic character. The connection was too specific, too direct to brush off. It wasn't just a random picture, it was personal, it was targeted. It was his way of turning her identity into a twisted trophy, mocking her memory, even as he continued gaining followers. Detectives started going further back, combing through old content, and what they found made everything worse. In February 2024, long before Celeste vanished, he posted a video captioned, "When your car declines at therapy and they bring in that one Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021. At the time, fans took it as some cryptic inside joke, maybe just another exaggerated lyric. But now, investigators believe he was openly referencing the very first time he met Celeste online years earlier. She had been only 11 or 12, just a child navigating the internet, and he was already a young adult building a career and a persona. That timeline painted a picture of grooming that stretched back far longer than anyone realized. What makes it even more twisted is that after Celeste went missing in April 2024, David didn't stop posting. He didn't lay low. He didn't show concern. Instead, he played both sides. On one hand, he posted content that made him look like he was grieving, a young artist in pain over the disappearance of someone important to him. But behind the scenes, he knew exactly where she was. That duplicity is what shocked detectives the most. It wasn't just the crime itself, it was the way he reveled in it, playing the role of a broken poet while keeping a sinister secret tucked away. And then came the music. His breakout hit, Romantic Homicide, had already become a global anthem, pulling in billions of streams, being quoted endlessly by teens online. Everyone thought it was just another heartbreak ballad, dramatic but relatable. Now, though, investigators wonder if the song was more than that. Some believe it was a veiled confession, a coded message about his real-life obsession with Celeste. Lyrics that once sounded like raw emotion now feel like a blueprint, a mask hiding a crime in the language of art. That possibility turned the whole case upside down. Even more disturbing, all of these posts and lyrics weren't made after Celeste's death. They were already out there before anyone even knew she was gone. That detail made one thing crystal clear. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't a sudden act of rage. This was premeditated. He had been building this narrative, breadcrumb by breadcrumb, meme by meme, lyric by lyric for years. It was like he wanted people to know, but only after it was too late for anyone to stop him. Celeste Rivas Hernandez wasn't just another name in a headline. She was a bright, joyful 14-year-old girl described by her family as sweet, funny, and full of life. She loved Hello Kitty, wore colorful bracelets, and dreamed big. Petite with wavy black hair, she was remembered by classmates as the kind of person who lit up a room, but none of those details could shield her from the darkness she got caught in. Investigators believe her connection with David began as early as 2021 when she was just a child online. Over time, the messages they uncovered across platforms from Instagram to Discord painted a picture of slow, methodical manipulation. He worked his way into her life, building trust, creating an emotional bond, all while maintaining his polished, sensitive public image. The evidence was overwhelming. Screenshots from Discord servers showed conversations going back years. Posts hinted at his possessive nature, with him talking about marking people he was close to, breaking them apart, and even fantasizing about funerals. That language became reality when investigators found Celeste's body. One detail crushed her family the most. Both Celeste and David had tattoos on their right index fingers, marked with the letters SH. Hers was in red ink. To the outside world, it might look like some cute couple's matching symbol, but to investigators, it was proof of control, a brand, a sign he viewed her as property. Her family had reported her missing in April 2024, but authorities didn't act with urgency. Why? Because she had run away before, and the system dismissed it as another teenage rebellion. That oversight turned deadly. What no one realized then was that those earlier runaways were tied directly to David, to his influence over her. By the time her family pieced it together, it was already too late. The system failed to connect the dots, and Celeste paid the price. The discovery of her body was horrifying. On September 8th, workers at a Hollywood tow lot noticed a foul smell coming from an abandoned Tesla. When LAPD opened the front trunk, what they found left even seasoned investigators shaken. The remains were not intact, matching the grotesque imagery David had been posting online for years. It was almost as if his digital feed had been rehearsing for this moment. The car itself was registered to David, parked just a block and a half from his Hollywood Hills residence. It wasn't hidden far away. It was close enough for him to watch, to keep it near like some sick trophy. And while the car sat there, while her body decayed inside, David was out on tour, performing on stage, posting selfies, smiling for fans, acting like nothing was wrong. People online speculated about motives, jealousy, rumors of pregnancy, fear of exposure ruining his career, but detectives believe it wasn't about fear. It was about obsession, control, feeding off the chaos he caused. He had been showing off the relationship openly at times. Photos and a live stream from October 2023 showed him with a girl who looked like Celeste at an LA event. It was there, in public, not just hidden in private messages. He wanted people to see, but not to realize. That duality, secret but also flaunted, is what makes this case so haunting. And then there was the unreleased music. Investigators uncovered a track titled Celeste Demo _UN, recorded in December 2023. The lyrics were personal, obsessive, and eerily prophetic. Lines about tattoos, control, and eternal connection. It wasn't art, it was a warning, a diary entry set to music. And just like his post, it was hiding in plain sight. By the time the Tesla was discovered, the story had written itself. A rising star, an underage fan, years of manipulation, a digital trail of confessions disguised as content, and a crime scene that matched the nightmare imagery he had been projecting online. For investigators, it wasn't just about charging him. It was about piecing together how so many red flags were ignored, how millions of people scrolled past what were essentially open confessions without stopping to connect the dots.
All right, so chat, there's a rapper named David that I didn't know that much about, but apparently I actually talked to the guy.
This case doesn't just expose one man's darkness, it exposes a flaw in our culture, how we consume content without thinking, how artists are allowed to blur the line between art and confession, between performance and reality, until tragedy forces us to see the difference. David's story wasn't just music, it was manipulation, obsession, and destruction, hiding behind guitar chords and sad boy aesthetics. And Celeste, a 14-year-old girl who should have been protected, became the ultimate victim of a system and an audience that didn't look closely enough. The story doesn't just end with whispers, headlines, and social media speculation. It goes much deeper, exposing a dark spiral that feels more like a Netflix crime documentary than real life. But sadly, this isn't fiction. This is raw, disturbing reality. The missing girl from Lake Elsinore, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, became the center of it all. Her name was tied to David in a way that couldn't be ignored. Insiders and people close to him later admitted that they knew something before police did. Red flags had been flashing for months, yet nobody stepped forward. Nobody wanted to be the one to break the silence, whether it was out of fear, loyalty, or just ignorance. And that silence, it cost a young girl her life. Now picture this. While Celeste's body sat lifeless in his car, David was still out there, performing on tour like nothing happened. On stage, smiling for cameras, dropping tracks, hyping up the crowd. That level of detachment is chilling. It's almost sociopathic. Most people can't even process how someone could keep up appearances with something so heavy hanging over them. For Celeste's family, the nightmare was unbearable. They didn't just lose a daughter, they lost her in the worst way possible, surrounded by lies, cover-ups, and a twisted online trail that mocked the very concept of innocence. Her mother confirmed tattoo details on her daughter's body, things police usually keep private to weed out false reports. That detail alone shows just how deeply her family knew her. And yet, they've been forced to start a GoFundMe just to bury their child. Imagine grieving a horrific loss while also begging strangers on the internet for money to cover funeral costs. It's cruel beyond words. What really stings is the fact that the warnings were always there. Reports claim Celeste's brother actually told authorities about David well before anything went down. He flagged concerns, begged for attention, but nothing happened. Lack of evidence, they said. Too thin, they said. But when law enforcement drags its feet on red flags, lives get lost. And this time, it wasn't just a mistake, it was fatal. The digital trail proves this wasn't some impulsive, heat-of-the-moment act. This was deliberate, planned, cold, carried out by someone who had been leaving breadcrumbs for years. His TikTok posts, captions, and edgy humor weren't random. They were flashing neon signs of a dark mindset, and he used his rising fame as a shield, manipulating fans who looked up to him while hiding behind the smoke and mirrors of clout. And here's where it gets even darker. Social media itself became the key to cracking the case. Investigators had to flip the entire playbook. Instead of treating posts and captions as background noise, they treated them as evidence, living proof of mindset, planning, and obsession. They traced it post by post, video by video, caption by caption, until a full picture emerged. The big breakthrough came on September 18, 2025, when LAPD executed a search warrant in the Hollywood Hills where David had been staying. The search wasn't just for physical evidence, they were looking for digital fingerprints. They combed through drains for blood traces, pulled hard drives, phones, and devices, and flipped the house inside out. And what they found online, it was chilling. His reposts, his captions, his so-called dark humor, they lined up perfectly with Celeste's final days. It was a digital confession, hiding in plain sight. And then there was the Tesla, his biggest mistake. Unlike regular cars, Teslas are rolling surveillance systems. Cameras, data logs, GPS coordinates, everything is tracked and recorded. That car became one of the strongest pieces of evidence, confirming timelines, movements, and even the exact routes he took. It told the story he thought he'd erased. One of the most haunting moments came from a TikTok repost he made long before the case broke open. It showed a man chopping raw chicken with the caption, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Back then, fans brushed it off as edgy humor, the kind of weird content artists post to keep an aesthetic. But after Celeste's fate was revealed, that post became a smoking gun. It wasn't humor, it was prophecy, a glimpse into how he viewed her, not as a person to love, but as an object to control, punish, and discard. The obsession wasn't just emotional, it was symbolic. Across his social media, a recurring Hello Kitty theme started popping up. Cute at first glance, but with blood, blindfolds, and captions twisted into something sinister. At first, people thought it was just quirky branding, but investigators believe those were trophies, psychological markers tied to his connection with Celeste. One video posted on February 7th, 2024 was captioned, "That one Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021. At the time, nobody blinked, but now it's believed to be a direct public reference to the moment he first contacted her online. That wasn't random, that was a breadcrumb. And here's another layer of manipulation. David wasn't acting alone. Reports claim he paid younger people in his private Discord server to keep quiet about his relationship with Celeste. He wasn't just grooming her, he was building an entire shield of silence, creating a digital army to protect his image while continuing his behavior unchecked. That's not just disturbing, that's strategic. The fallout was massive. His label, Intercope, slammed the brakes on promoting his deluxe album Withered. Universal, Sony Publishing, and Wasserman all cut ties. Corporate sponsors like Crocs and Hollister ghosted him overnight. His US tour canceled, his international shows gone, his brand, which had been built on heartbreak and mystery, collapsed like a house of cards. But one detail hit fans harder than the rest. His final Instagram post was made on September 7th, Celeste's birthday. The very next day, her body was found. That timing felt like more than coincidence. It felt like a message, a hidden signal. One last flex of control, cloaked in normality. The public reaction was pure shock. Social media exploded. X threads, TikTok breakdowns, Reddit deep dives. Fans turned into digital detectives, piecing together old clips, captions, and interviews, realizing the signs had been there all along. For many, his music is now unlistenable. Every lyric, every dark metaphor, suddenly feels like confession, not art. And this case has already shifted law enforcement strategy. Old school investigations leaned on physical evidence and eyewitness accounts. But David's case proved that in today's world, social media isn't noise, it's evidence. Every caption, every repost, every aesthetic choice might be part of a criminal timeline. It's also forcing platforms to rethink their role.
There's also a since deleted Reddit post from a user named American Strawberry when the body was first found in David's car and nobody knew who it was before she was identified. This American Strawberry went on Reddit and she left a comment saying like, I'm from the area. This little girl went missing a while back. I really hope it's not her, but it sounds like it is.
Disturbing posts can no longer just be dismissed as dark humor. They might be signals, red flags of obsession or danger. Celeste's tragedy is proof of what happens when those signals are ignored. Because make no mistake, the systems failed her. Teachers, friends, family, fans. People saw things, but they brushed it off. Authorities were warned, but nothing was done. And now her family is left to pick up the pieces, grieving in public while begging for justice. Her burial is scheduled for October 5th, 2025. And yes, they still need donations to make it happen.
That I can't confirm if it's real, but it's called Celeste. Apparently, David wrote it in 2023, and the lyrics are kind of great.
Why the hell would you go in Elon's on-road spaceship that records everything and go do a crime and then leave the body in the trunk. They probably got you chopping her up. It probably got all type of...
The official cause of death is still pending more forensic work, but the evidence stacking up is overwhelming. Matching tattoos, leaked photos, a private track named after her, and most of all, the digital diary he left behind showing mindset, planning, and obsession. David hasn't been formally charged yet, but his reps claim he's cooperating. Meanwhile, investigators continue piecing together the puzzle. But fans, insiders, and law enforcement alike know one thing for sure: this wasn't random. It was calculated. And here's the sad irony: the very platforms that made him famous are the same platforms that exposed him. His TikTok, his Instagram, his Discord, they became his undoing. He left too many breadcrumbs, and now the whole world can see the trail he built. Celeste's story should never be reduced to just a headline. She's not just the missing girl from Lake Elsinore. She's a symbol of what happens when red flags get ignored. Her story is a warning, a lesson, a brutal reminder that behind every viral track, every TikTok clip, every mysterious artist, there are real people, real victims, real consequences. The truth is simple: when someone is posting dark fantasies, creepy captions, or unhealthy obsessions online, it's not just aesthetic, it's not just branding. Sometimes it's exactly what it looks like: a digital confession waiting to be read. And if we don't start paying attention, if we don't start calling it out, then stories like Celeste's will keep happening. And next time it might be too late. So don't ignore the signs. Don't brush it off as just a joke. Because behind the screen, behind the music, behind the fame, someone's life might be on the line. Celeste's story deserves to be remembered, not just as a tragedy, but as a wake-up call for parents, for fans, for law enforcement, and for every one of us scrolling through feeds, laughing at dark humor without realizing what it really means. Because this wasn't just content, this was evidence, and it's time we start treating it that way.